The objective of this recording is to install PostgreSQL and set up PostgreSQL database server from source code. There are three major steps in this process. The first one is procuring an EC2 Linux instance. And the second step is downloading the respective source code and configuring and setting up the PostgreSQL database server using the source code on this EC2 Linux instance. Let's proceed with step number 1, that is procuring an EC2 RHEL8 instance here. I won't be talking in detail on this EC2, how to procure this EC2 virtual machine, because that was already covered in my previous recording. I would be just launching a new instance with all default options. I already have a private key for this key pair in my local desktop, so I would be choosing the same. Now, if you look at in this EC2 dashboard, the status is still pending. Once it comes to running state, we can log in using the public IP address. So it came to a running state. Let me pick up this IP address. Go to putty EC2-user at the rate this IP address. If I give this private key, I already have this private key converted. So let me change some colors for better look. So it looks like this is not ready yet. Let me restart. This time I'm able to log in. I'm able to log in as an EC2 user because I already have a private key for it. Now let me switch to root and install these basic packages. Before I install these basic packages, let me show you the Red Hat release here. This is a Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 8. So instead of yum, we would use DNF to install packages. So these are some basic packages that required. I would be just blindly following these 4 steps here. We need a GCC compiler to compile the source code. These 4 packages installation is done. Now let me create one directory, high level directory, in which we are going to install the Postgres binaries. Okay, this is as part of step number 1. Now let me proceed to step number 2, which talks about downloading the source code. I can download source code from this website. And go to download. If I scroll down under source code, click on file, browser. Various version source codes are available. There is no specific reason why I have chosen 11.5. It's up to you. You can also choose 12. The process is same. I'm downloading this tar.gz. It's already downloaded. My next step is to WinSCP this to file to RHEL VM, EC2 VM virtual machine. Now let me open WinSCP. Now what is my public IP? Here is my public IP. Since I don't have a password for this user, I have only the private key. Click on advanced, go to authentication and choose the private key file. Click login. You see, I logged into this EC2 instance as a EC2 user without password. I'm transferring this .tar.gz file, which is under my downloads, to temp folder on my RHEL box. The transfer just completed. So if transfer completed, I am good with this WinSCP. I can close this. Now if I go back here to my temp directory, I could see this gz file. Let me follow the next steps to untar. So let me make a note of these steps in the document. I will be sharing this document as part of notes section or a comment section. This untar extraction of this tar file would create one directory here, PostgreSQL 11.5. Now if you get into this directory, there is a file called configure, right? This file will help us to configure the source tree for our system, and it will also help us to choose some of the appropriate options. The simplest way we can use this command is configure prefix is equals to where I want to install my PostgreSQL binaries. If you are not sure of what option to use, let me cancel this for time being and say configure-help. When you say configure-help, you could see a bunch of options that you can use with configure command. But most of the time we would install with the basic options. So all I got to pass here is where I want my binaries to be placed, and this is my port number. You don't have to specify. 5432 is the default port number. I can ignore it too. Just to show you how we pass some of the options, I'm just giving this PZ port as well. Okay, this step is complete. The next step is to start a build. For starting a build, you need a make, and you have a make file here. So all you got to do is just type make and enter. This step is going to take some time, like couple of minutes to 3 or 4 minutes or so. It is going to compile the source code and generate the executables out of it. Please note that I'm doing all these steps as a root user. The make command is still running. In the meantime, I'm building the next successive steps. We will run this make install so that it will install the binaries into the directory you specified as part of configure. Then I'm going to add a user called Postgres. It's not mandatory to use a Postgres. You can use any user, but as a standard, we would use a Postgres as a OS user, super user for Postgres SQL database server. Then I'm going to create a data directory. This is where the database's metadata at least is going to sit. The initial databases that you get are at least going to sit in this directory. I'm changing the ownership of this directory. Once this is done, I will switch to Postgres, and I'm going to say I'm going to run initdb to initialize the storage restrictions that are necessary for default databases. This Postgres will help me to start the Postgres SQL database server. You can use this command rpg_ctl that will be given by this command. So let's get in there. Once the compilation completes, make command is successful. You can see it here. And it is saying that we are ready to install. That's a good sign. So now all I got to do is make install. Before I do that, let me go to this directory that we created, our directory we given as a prefix. Did you see any files here? Absolutely no. Because so far this configure command or make command are not going to write anything into this, the prefix directory we gave. Once I start make install, this step is going to write directories into this directory, high level directory. It says that Postgres installation is complete. If you go to this folder now and do ls-ltr, you can see these high level directories. You got a bin, you got a lib, you got a share, and you got include. Let's come back. So now let me add Postgres user. Let me change password. Let me create a data directory. Let me copy this. Now the next step is I need to switch to Postgres. The init DB, you need to run it as a Postgres user, non-root user. So I'm logging in as a database server owner, and all I do is run this init DB. So this is going to initialize the storage structures at this data level, data directory level. Now all I'm going to do is I can run this Postgres command, or I can use this more sophisticated version, pg_control, to start my Postgres services. If you see ps-ef grep for Postgres, you can see the background services running. Okay, so going back to the documentation here, I can consider from here as step number 3, configure and setup. Please note that I would be sharing these notes as part of a notes section of this recording. What are my next steps? The Postgres is up and running, but how do I confirm that everything is okay? Now let me go to bash profile of the Postgres user. When you press cd and enter, you'll go to home directory. Let me add these 2 lines so that I don't have to give absolute path each and every time. Let me source bash profile so that when I say which PSQL, it would pick up that from bin path. When I say which create DB, it would pick up from that bin directory. If I do PSQL-L, it will show me there are 3 default databases that I got. Let me create a database. The simplest way to create a database is you can use create DB shell command, which comes up with the PostgreSQL installation, or you can use SQL syntax called create database. So let me use create DB command and just say that, okay, let's create a test database. You see how fast it created? It just copies this test database from template 1 structure. So you see I got a test database. Let's connect to this test database, PSQL test, I connected to test database here. There are no tables. I'm creating a table. I've just inserted one record and I can select that record. I can also display the table here T1. So this means our installation is successful. Our database server setup from source code is successful. Going back and quickly recap, there are three major steps. We procured an EC2 instance. I did not go in detail on this because the objective of this presentation is not to show how to procure. That was already covered as part of my previous recording. We downloaded source code and we WinSCP'd the product. Then we extracted the product in temp folder, temp directory. Then we did go through some basic steps to configure and set up Postgres database server. Some steps needs to be run as a root user. Some steps you must run as a Postgres non-root user. I hope this video is helpful in understanding how do we set up PostgreSQL database server from source code. Thank you for watching this video. Talk to you later in the next recording.